This October, Blue Apron is celebrating its 5th anniversary by bringing back its top 20 recipes from throughout the past 5 years, as picked by you, the Blue Apron community. Your favorite Blue Apron recipes are back on the menu for a limited time only. Blue Apron is all about giving people fresh recipes to explore as they learn to cook new dish after new dish. But many people don't realize they don't repeat recipes within one calendar year. That's what makes this limited time offer so exciting. So try out Blue Apron's all-time customer favorites by going to blueapron.com/Bomani. Over the past 5 years, Blue Apron has created over 1,000 recipes, and Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. You customize your recipes each week based on your preferences. Several delivery options so you can choose what fits your needs, and no weekly commitment so you get your Blue Apron deliveries when you want them. Each meal has a step-by-step, easy-to-follow recipe card, and the pre-portioned ingredients can be prepared in 40 minutes or less. Blue Apron's freshness guarantee promises that every ingredient in your Blue Apron delivery arrives ready to cook or they'll make it right. Check out this week's menu and get $30 off your first meal with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/Bomani. You will love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so don't wait. That's blueapron.com/Bomani. Blue Apron, a better way to cook.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
We've been gone for a while, and this is the first Monday that I've done a show with my good buddy Shannon in a couple of weeks. And while Shannon was gone, the Giants lost. Did you know that, Shannon?
Well, you said that like that was the first time for the season. I mean,
No. I'm just saying that they lost. Did anything else happen while you were gone?
Well, they did win a game, right?
You should have come to work that day. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. As some of you, it's kind of weird how this happened, but I've kind of sort of become like the guy in the national media that people often like to hear from when it's time to talk about the Falcons. And part of what makes that so interesting is that I don't root for the Falcons. And in case you're wondering why I don't root for the Falcons, no. Can you let them hear part of why I don't root for the Falcons? What I try to tell them every week. What do I try to tell them every week?
The Falcons aren't to be trusted.
The Falcons are not to be trusted. If you needed a solidification of the fact that Falcons aren't to be trusted, how many teams could find a way to take a lead on a touchdown and now be trailing after the extra point? See how they're ahead right now?
Yeah. They are.
You see how they're not about to be ahead anymore?
Yeah,
you see how they lost the game?
That happened very quickly.
Right. And you're going to ask me what this is about? I mean, look, the Chiefs were scoring on them with fake punts. Alex Smith had a huge yards per attempt number, which you never have, but it's really just going to a bunch of tight ends. And Julio Jones hurt his hamstring, which means this offense might be done for. It wouldn't matter who was on the other side. The Falcons would have found a way to lose that game the exact same way if they were playing against Vanderbilt.
But their offense shouldn't be the one losing it. Keep in mind, Bomani, their defense is really bad, but the way that you can't lose the game is with your offense allowing Kansas City to score points. Your defense allows enough points on its own without Matt Ryan helping them get a couple more.
Oh, yeah, did we mention that Matt Ryan threw a pick 6 to go along with that pick 2 that he threw right there? Did we get to the round? The only thing that game was missing was afterward one of their players getting busted for soliciting a prostitute, because that's the most Falcon thing to happen ever. Or your franchise quarterback deciding, hey, I got a little free time. Who wants to fight some dogs?
This doesn't sound like bitterness at all.
How about the time their first 1,000-yard rusher, they stopped the game to give him the ball, and he ended the game with 995 yards? Would you like to talk about the time Jerry Rice scored 5 touchdowns on Charles Toast Demery in 1990, while Dion's on the other side doing I don't know what? How about the time the head coach left the letter in lockers because he was going to quit his job because the quarterback got caught dogfighting?
Bobby Petrino, yeah, that was good.
How about the time they scored 2 points in a playoff game? Yeah, we go ahead and stop there. I feel like they got the point there, right? See, it became known. I had this cascading thing where I talked about all the horrible, miserable ways that the Falcons had managed to lose over the course of time, right? A lot of them were very, very heartbreaking. But see, what happened last night in that game against the Patriots was not really a heartbreaking loss. It was actually the kind of loss that most Falcons fans are most familiar with. And if all you guys out here who became Falcons fans when Michael Vick came around, you don't really understand what just took place. And you know what it was that just took place? What the Falcons have probably endured more of than any team has ever? Just regular old, everyday butt whoopings. Right? Ain't no story. Ain't nothing really, like, memorable about the fact that they got their butts whooped. They just got their butts whooped. That was all it is. I wish that Mickey Mouse wasn't looking over my shoulder right now. I could talk about this in the terms that I really want to talk about this sort of thing in, right? They just got their butts kicked. Falcons went out there against the Patriots. None of us think the Patriots have a good defense. Everybody done ran 300 yards passing off on the Patriots. We've all been like, yo, I don't know. This might be when the thing ends for the Patriots. We're not exactly sure. Falcons went out there and got the brakes beat off them with this terrible offense. Now, I saw something. Shannon, did you see this? Because it got real foggy, and they said that Steve Sarkisian might have had an issue because he was up in the booth.
Oh, so that's what explains the play calling. Gotcha.
Well, let me ask a question. Did he ever come out the booth? Right? Is that fair for me to ask? Did he ever come out the booth? Because I feel like if that's what the streets is telling you, then you need to come up out the booth. Did he ever emerge from the booth? Falcons went out there and hired an offensive coordinator, and like anybody here, you tell me, okay? You tell me the last time somebody hired Steve Sarkisian and he made things better. Right? You could say the University of Washington, right? Because he took over right after Willingham was there. Willingham had them there in the zeros, right? Okay, you could say that. But when he took over the offense at USC, the offense did not get better. When they brought him back to be the head coach, the offense did not get better. When they let him call plays that one time for Alabama, the offense did not get better. Now this dude is coaching for the Falcons. Shannon, did you see this? It was 4th and goal on the 1, and they handed the ball to a wide receiver?
I think that's one of those cases where you just outsmart yourself. When you got Freeman back there and you decide, let's give the wide out a shot.
I don't care what Freeman that you had back there, right? They could have had Freddie Freeman of the Atlanta Braves, okay? Whatever Freeman it is that you got back there, if he's not a wide receiver, maybe you can give him the ball. Who gives the ball to a wide receiver in a situation like that? Who does that? The Falcons. That's who does that. And by the way, I came out of that game, which was played 1 week after the Patriots played the Jets, and none of us were sure if the Patriots were any better than the Jets. I came out of that game with no better idea of whether or not the Patriots are any good. Like, does anybody really feel if you took the Patriots jerseys off, put anybody else's jerseys on them, how good would you be saying that you thought those cats were? Like, real talk, how good would you be saying that the Patriots were? I have no handle on this at all. What I do know about the Falcons, hey, man, you just can't stop being who you are sometimes, right? And I guess that's what the argument that we make a lot of times for the Patriots and why they're good. But I'm looking at the Falcons like, hey, man, I guess you just can't stop being who you are sometimes, huh? Shannon, why Devontae Freeman only get the ball 12 times? 12 carries.
I don't know. It's something about the Falcons. It's in their DNA that they got to make it harder than it has to be.
How's your second leading rusher in the game, Matt Ryan, bro?
Out there making it harder than it has to be.
Matt Ryan. Like, how? What is this? What are they doing? Because, like, I tried to get off, like, the mental, like, the psychology games and all that stuff like that, right? I just don't feel like there's really that much to gain from playing those sorts of games. But I would have thought, given what happened in the Super Bowl, that you think the Falcons would be out there, what they call it, chomping at the bit. Isn't that what they say sometimes? You would think that they would be out here chomping at the bit, ready to get back out there, show the world that they, what they mean. Instead, Shannon, the Falcons are 3-3. 3-3. Coming off 3 losses in a row to the Bills, not so embarrassing. To the Dolphins, kind of. And to the Patriots. So maybe we're being unfair, Shannon? Maybe, perhaps.
Well, and in a couple of those games, though, they could have easily lost. I know they won the games that they won, but they could have easily been 1-5.
Well, yeah, they tried to lose that game to the Bears, and the game against the Lions was not so much going well. Like, Kyle Shanahan, this is what they do. Like, Kyle Shanahan's up there not winning any games with the 49ers while somehow looking like more of an offensive genius than ever just because of what happened when Sarkisian took over. That's it. Like, honestly, I feel like Kyle Shanahan should have just taken this whole year off. Just be like, go ahead and watch that. See what happened. Let me know. You're going to see. By the way, here is Atlanta Falcons head coach Dan Quinn trying to, I don't know what he's looking for. Maybe a bright side?
Well, number one, I think they're a really resilient group. Of course, like any competitor, they're pissed, because we know we have a higher standard that we want to play to. So when you don't attain that, you get disappointed. The preparation and the process that they go through to get ready has been on point, but we're not executing at the level that we can. And that's what we're going to work like crazy to get right.
Man, you imagine having to be a coach and you got to, like, explain all these things that happen after y'all get beat, like, in these ways? Can you imagine that? Like, I mean, like, I just feel like after this happens, you just have to want to go home and be like, man, you saw the game, man. We just got smoked. So you got to, I'm sure these guys don't feel good about this and everything else, da-da-da. Nah, man, people want your offensive coordinator's head. Here's Matt Ryan, by the way. He says the Falcons ain't nowhere to go but up.
Every year is different. Played in this league long enough to know that, one, it's hard to win games, and two, it's a tall task to be productive week in and week out. It takes a lot of hard work, and so we haven't been as productive as I think we're capable of being. From a player standpoint, I feel like it comes down to missed opportunities. I think that's been we've sounded like a little bit of a broken record for the, first couple of weeks of the season. But when we get our chances, we've got to make plays, and we haven't done a good job of that.
Hey, Shannon, speaking of Matt Ryan, are people still sticking to all the Matt Ryan stuff they were saying last year? Remember that everybody thought Matt Ryan become somebody new?
Funny how that stuff works when you win an MVP, right? You don't hear those saying the same chirping that you probably should.
Yeah, it's like suddenly people really thought that he had become a new person, and now he looks like the Matt Ryan that we had seen all the time. So bless his heart for getting that MVP, don't get me wrong, but I do feel like what we're seeing is Matt Ryan is a good quarterback who can be very good, but is simply not a great quarterback. But even if he was a great quarterback, Sarkisian out here giving the ball on jet sweeps. Jet sweeps, bro. Jet sweeps. At the goal line. Whew.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
By the way, something I hadn't really thought about here as it relates to the Falcons. I'm glad Devontae Freeman already got his money while that Kyle Shanahan was still on the offense. Otherwise, he'd have to go scrap it out with Sarkisian in the parking lot like, say, homie, you out here costing me some bread. Right? Like, I know you out here doing the best that you can, but the best that you can ain't going to feed my kids. Anyway, how'd you guys enjoy this weekend of NFL action? Did you find the weekend of NFL action to be fantastic? I did not find the weekend of NFL action myself to necessarily be fantastic. Now, what we wound up with, and we're getting to that point of the year, that time of year where dudes is just getting hurt, right? Like, this is just going to be a thing that's happening. Dudes are getting hurt. What happens when dudes get hurt, especially when quarterbacks get hurt? Sorry people have to get into the game. How many teams at one point or another over the weekend had to put in a quarterback that I think is legitimately sorry? Shall we count? Carson Palmer got hurt. That means they brought in Drew Stanton, who somehow is still in the league. Drew Stanton is sorry. Blake Bortles had the best game of his life, guys, at least as far as I can tell. 18 for 26, 330 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions. Blake Bortles is sorry. Jacoby Brissett was also in that game, and Jacoby Brissett has demonstrated some level of talent. But as things stand right now, Jacoby Brissett is sorry. Jets are out here with Josh McCown. Let me say this right now. For the 15th straight year, Josh McCown is sorry. The Dolphins brought in Matt Moore, who is not very good, but before Matt Moore came in the game, they had Jay Cutler out there. Before Jay Cutler got hurt, you know what you were able to see? Jay Cutler is sorry. Mitchell Trubisky, I believe that in these 2 games that he is quarterback, he has completed 8 passes. Mitchell Trubisky is sorry. We had the Ravens against the Vikings. Joe Flacco, not exactly sure when it happened, like when he went over the line and there was no coming back. But Joe Flacco was sorry. Case Keenum, he's sorry too. For all I know, Teddy Bridgewater got 1 leg, and they still thinking about bringing him back as soon as he's cleared because he's not sorry. They had Brett Hundley out there. Brett Hundley came to play in because of Aaron Rodgers. Brett Hundley, who, by the way, if we played any audio of Brett Hundley, and I told you his name was Brett Hundley, and he went to UCLA, you would be very surprised when that Brett Hundley showed up. Let me tell you something now so you won't be surprised when you see him. Brett Hundley is sorry. Browns threw 2 quarterbacks out there. I don't feel like even listing both their names. Don't matter. They both sorry. Shannon, who was that playing quarterback for the 49ers? You remember his name? Was it Beathard? Yeah, it was Beathard. Yeah, he's sorry. Who else is sorry? Andy Dalton. Are we making Andy Dalton sorry? Because I feel like we none of us believe Andy Dalton is good, but we waver on him being sorry. Oh, 17 for 30 for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He got sacked 4 times. Guess what, guys? Andy Dalton is sorry. Trevor Siemian, I think everybody held on and thought he might be able to give the Broncos a little something. They thought they'd find a diamond in the rough. Nah, man, he just rough. Trevor Siemian, I feel like he's sorry. And Shannon, if you're there, would you like to give us the verdict on Eli Manning?
All right. He didn't play great, but I can't really blame yesterday on Eli. You got all backup receivers against that secondary, and your line didn't give you much time. So I won't put this one on Eli, but generally he hasn't played well this year.
Shannon, he averaged 3.4 yards per attempt.
Oh, no, they were super conservative. I think they threw it down the field one time.
He averaged 3.4 yards per attempt, and let's not act like the rest of the season has not happened. I'm going to go through some game logs, and you tell me whether or not in these particular games Eli Manning was or was not sorry. Okay. Oh, I was about to say he wasn't really sorry against the Eagles, 35 for 47 for 366 yards and 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Okay, he wasn't sorry. He wasn't sorry against the Bucs either, Shannon. But he was sorry against the Chargers. Did you watch that game?
Yeah, I did. That was an ultimate what's up with your mans kind of game.
He was actually kind of sorry against the Broncos. They just happened to win it.
Mm-hmm.
He was sorry against the Cowboys. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
Sorry against the Lions?
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
Yeah. How many quarterbacks did I just list, by the way? Like, some of them were just like, I wouldn't say they were all just sorry for a week. Most of them are giving you an extended demonstration of sorriness. But there's a lot of sorry running around this league. Now, I'm not even taking that to the place that I can so obviously take it to with all this sorry in the league at quarterback. I'm going to take it to the place that I like to take it to when we talk about all the sorry quarterbacks in the league, which is, once again, have we not constructed the whole game backwards when it's this hard to find somebody to play quarterback? Oh, wow. Hold on. I work with a bunch of Giants fans, by the way, so they're always able to give me these important details. To be fair to Eli Manning, who I do think is a little bit sorry, he's out here throwing to Tavares King, Travis Rudolph, and Roger Lewis. Isn't Roger Lewis like a talk show host? Isn't that the dude that host was it Blind Date? Is that him? I feel like I went on this radio show in L.A. before. Is that the dude? That's not him? What's that dude's name? Either way it goes, we got so much sorry quarterback play going on in the league. And look, we're going to have the sorry quarterback play for a while now. We keep watching this. I guess there's no real protest that we could put in that would make the quarterbacks be better. But, man, we got so many sorry quarterbacks out here. So many. And honestly, when did Joe Flacco just become awful? There was a point, obviously, where you could win a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, and it wasn't like the Ravens carried Joe Flacco to that Super Bowl. For that postseason, Joe Flacco absolutely carried them all the way there, and they played against one of the more talented teams that we've seen in recent memory, those 2012 49ers. He carried them to a Super Bowl. How did he get so sorry after the fact? Like, did he just get that money and be like, nah, I ain't trying to work out? No, I don't need to work out. Yeah, no. Yeah, he out there with his kids. Dad, you want to play catch? We ain't got to play catch no more. We rich. Now, how about this? How about you just take a tennis ball and go throw it against the wall? Daddy keeping his arm safe. You got to realize after all these years of playing NFL football, I don't want my arm to be hurting too much down the line. You know what I'm saying? I only got so many throws left in it. I want to protect it. Yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, kid, it doesn't matter. We so rich.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
I have not checked my Twitter mentions as we started doing this show. I said a little bit earlier that I thought that Eli Manning was sorry, and I find that people get really, really upset when I say certain things about Eli Manning because I was on the internet today, and I said that Eli Manning was not a Hall of Famer. He's probably going to make the Hall of Fame on the basis of those 2 Super Bowls, but I think that he's been a fair to middling quarterback his whole career. Now he's sorry, but I don't think that Eli Manning is a good quarterback, and they come for me every time about that, man. They come for me so strong. They call me all kinds of racist, and to think that that is not even the most polarizing thing that I said on the internet over the course of the weekend. Now, I said this thing over the weekend that I've said before, that I will probably say again. In fact, I am going to say it again today, but I say it, and whenever I say it, I don't know why. It is the thing of all things that really, really, really makes y'all freak out. And you know what that thing is that I say that really, really, really makes y'all freak out? I say that Jason Witten is not, I repeat, not a Hall of Famer. That's all it is. Did anybody pass out in the studio over there, Shannon? Because I feel like people pass out when I say that. Anybody pass out over there?
No one passed out, but a couple people clutched their pearls.
Yeah, like there's definite pearl clutching when I say that. And so the argument that I make about Jason Witten is that Jason Witten was steady and he was like, reliable. But I feel like the Hall of Fame is for dynamic players. The Hall of Fame is for players who do dynamic things. And Jason Witten, as cool as he was with that slow and steady wins the race and all of that and making those catches right in front of the marker, no, that does not make you a Hall of Famer. I mean, it's crazy. And part of it is people have been doing these games for so long, these broadcasters calling Jason Witten the future Hall of Famer, that y'all ain't even really thought about what Jason Witten actually does or does not provide to the team. So my man, James, the homie James came through for me, James Jackson. Works in research at ESPN. He saw me talking about this, and he's like, look, let me get some numbers together for you. So my man got some numbers together for me. Y'all up there in Bristol need to holler at this man because he gets numbers together for people. So check this out, right? Since Jason Witten entered the league in 2003, okay? Let me make sure I got this right. Among tight ends with at least 200 receptions since 2003, there are 47 of them. Jason Witten averages 10.87 yards per reception. That puts him 35th out of the 47 tight ends that have made 200 catches since Jason Witten came into the league. That puts him behind notables like Tony Scheffler, Kobe Fleener, and Anthony Fasano. He has averaged 3.75 yards after the catch per reception. That puts him at 41st out of 47. Would you like some more? Jason Witten, since 2003, has 5 multi-touchdown games. That puts him on the same level as luminaries like Mercedes Lewis, Owen Daniels, and Tyler Eifert. By comparison, Antonio Gates has 21 multi-touchdown games. Rob Gronkowski has 15. Tony Gonzalez had 12. Witten's never had a 3-touchdown game. Let's keep going. Career games with 10 receptions, all right? But less than 100 yards. Jason Witten has done that 5 times since 2003. 10 receptions, less than 100 yards. No other tight end has that many games with 10 receptions and less than 100 yards. Gronkowski, never. Gates, never. Kelsey, never. Tony Gonzalez, only 3 of them. Shall I continue? Witten came into the league in 2003. 44 players have at least a season with 80 receptions and 10 touchdowns. Okay? Witten isn't one of them. Right. 6 tight ends have done that, though. 80 receptions, 10 touchdowns, okay? 6 tight ends have done it. Graham, Gates, Gronk, Dallas Clark, Tony Gonzalez, Jordan Reed, Jason Witten, never done that. Now, these guys are wide receivers, but gentlemen like Drew Bennett, Chris Chambers, Miles Austin, and 3 different times Eric Decker have had 80 receptions and 10 touchdowns. So I ask you guys this while I'm here, right? Help me out, man. Help me out, okay? Why are you so sure that Jason Witten is a Hall of Famer? Because I know a lot of people will come in and be like, Jason Witten is the best blocking tight end of his era. I mean, if you want to make that argument, that's fine. Just don't get up in my face trying to argue to me about, do you know anything about tight ends and how they be blocking? You don't know how tight ends be blocking. You know what the man tell you about the tight ends that be blocking. And they tell you that Jason Witten's blocking. Not that he's not blocking, but they tell you that Jason Witten's blocking. If for no other reason, then they're going to make sure that you think that Jason Witten is a future Hall of Famer. Dude, he's a very good player. You know what Jason Witten is? Jason Witten's a dude that if you root for his team, then you should love him, right? You know, you bring him out to the sidelines during games. You know, they say during one of the breaks, like, hey, joining us is Cowboys legend Jason Witten. And then he waves his hand. I don't know. He might even take off a cowboy hat. He might rock one of them in his free time. I ain't really got no answer for you on that. But that's the kind of player that he's supposed to be. He's just not a Hall of Famer. He's certainly what they got down there, Shannon? They got the Ring of Honor.
Oh, yeah, he's guaranteed to make the Ring of Honor.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's about guaranteed to make the Hall of Fame. I'm just saying he ain't got no business there. Like, he's a Ring of Honor guy, certainly. I just can't figure out, after I rattled this off for you, okay, all these numbers that show that Jason Witten simply is not a dynamic receiver. And if you're going to make the Hall of Fame as a tight end, man, we're talking about receiving. Like, Mike Ditka is the first tight end to make it into the Hall of Fame. He got in either 88 or 89. I can't remember the year off the top of my head. Go look at what Ditka did when he first walked into the league. He was an absolute force when he first got into the league. Go look at who the guys are that are Hall of Famers at tight end. Ain't nobody worried about if Kellen Winslow could block. Who is wasting their time with that information? Don't nobody care about that. That's not what gets you in the Hall of Fame at that position. But I just wanted to go ahead and say this to you, not because it's particularly germane to anything that's going on in sports. I'm just tired of y'all talking to me like I'm crazy, man. I got called a racist. I got called all kinds of things simply because I said a non-dynamic tight end was not a Hall of Famer. Somebody's like, well, he was consistently one of the top 5 tight ends in the league. That ain't good enough to get you into the Hall of Fame. They didn't put any of them in the Hall of Fame until the 1980s. Like, you go look at how many tight ends are in the Hall of Fame in total and then tell me if I'm supposed to say you a top 5 one for like a year or two that somehow I'm supposed to put you in the Hall of Fame. That's not what it is. So what I need y'all to answer for me is, why are y'all so mad when I say that Jason Witten is not a Hall of Famer? Right? Like, why are you so mad at me when I say that? I'm just curious. Because I can't figure out why you're so damn sure he's in there in the Hall of Fame. But even then, I didn't say he was sorry. I just said he's not a Hall of Famer. Why y'all always so ready to fight me over that one? I got another Cowboys hot take about the Hall of Fame. I'll tell you on another day. I don't want to fight.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
So, guys, can we be honest here? Can we be honest? It's the second week of the NBA season, and the NBA is a lot more interesting right now than the NFL. I can't be the only person who feels that way, right? It is a lot more interesting. And see, the problem I think that people are making with the NBA right now is they're working on the we know who's going to go to the finals principle. Therefore, everything else that happens is going to wind up being boring, right? And so that even got more so solidified when Gordon Hayward had his whole leg get mangled on national television in front of everybody. I would like to, by the way, take a moment, and I've said this before, and I want to say it again just so everybody gets the point, because I think you'll feel me on this. I would argue that a nation where if a woman's nipple becomes visible on television, everybody turns their heads, but if a man has his ankle turned around in 5 different directions, they zoom in on it, is a nation that's hustling backwards. Right now, maybe you're not into the same sorts of things that I am, but I'm just saying there is by no measure will you be able to tell me that there is something worse about looking at a woman's nipple than there is somebody's mangled ankle. I was watching that game, man. I was at the crib, and I saw Hayward scooting himself off the floor, and I'm like, gee, I wonder what's going on. And then I heard Kevin Harlan say, Hayward has broken his leg. Hayward has broken his leg, right? And it seemed like he was telling that to the guys in the truck, like, yo, we got a cold black, right? And so at that moment, I turned away from the screen because I don't watch devastating injuries. I have no point to. Like, you could, the whole list of the worst injuries of the last few years, I ain't seen any of them. I ain't see Kevin Ware. I didn't see Sean Livingston. I didn't see Paul George. I didn't see any of those, man. I just don't live that kind of life, right? So I turned my head away, but I still had the peripheral kicking, right? Because I'm slick like that. So the peripheral was still kicking, and I was like, wait a minute. They're zooming in on this. Why would you show this again? Why would you do that? Anyway, I found that to be ridiculous. And, yes, the whole Boston thing kind of over, at least in terms of being a championship contender. I'm sure Brad Stevens is going to cook up a little something to make them overachievers in some sort of way. But nah, man, like, it's not there. So, yes, I do believe the Cavs are going to win the East. Yes, I do believe the Warriors are going to win the West. The Warriors also right now are all of 1-2. The Rockets are trying to figure out how to get this thing together, and what's going to be really interesting with them is Chris Paul is hurt right now, and that's why, that's the reason I'm going to go with right now that the Rockets look so much better when Chris Paul was not on the floor, right? Like, that's the reason I'm going to go with. But are you not intrigued by the idea that the Rockets went and got Chris Paul to play with James Harden, and what happens if Chris Paul actually makes them worse rather than make them better? Like, I'm not sure if you watched that team of Condors that they got in Milwaukee. Are you not intrigued by watching Giannis at this point? Like, is that somebody that you do not want to see play basketball? Go all around the league, man. There are so many interesting teams and so many interesting stories, and that's before we get to Bobby Portis breaking Andrew Luck's face. No wonder the coach don't want to tell us when Andrew Luck is going to come back. They got no idea when Andrew Luck is going to come back. You know how long it takes to recover from a broken face like that? Like, Shannon, if you were the coach, would you want to bring Andrew Luck back out there with a broken face?
It's not, especially not behind that offensive line, just ask T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, no, Bobby Portis came in there. Whew, that story, I'm mad we weren't on the air for the day of that one, because by all accounts, like, the first account that we got was that it was a sucker punch. Nobody else is saying that it's a sucker punch, so I got a pretty good idea who the source was on the first one for the sucker punch. But even the Bulls were like, okay, so... yes, I'm John Paxson, and yes, I did once punch and choke Vinny Del Negro when he was the head coach, but after you break somebody's face, we do kind of have to suspend you. And the Bulls' whole argument for the suspension was basically, yeah, we don't mind people fighting, but you can't win by that much. It's like they got mad at, it's basically their problem with, what's his name, Portis. They felt like Portis ran up the score. Like, that's all it was. It's like, look, man, you allowed to win the fight, man, but you can't be out here just stunting on them like that. And now, by the way, Shannon, one of them has to go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't have both of them on the squad for the remainder of the season. You can't do it. No, you can't. Let's bring it into the huddle, guys. No, you can't do it.
Well, the big thing about it is you can have it. The only circumstance under which you could bring Bobby Portis and Mirotić back would involve Mirotić being like, you're right, I had it coming. Like, that's what it would have to be. Did you also see it where Bobby Portis said that he called Mirotić, he had texted Mirotić, and then Mirotić had not hit him back, and he said that he thought that it would be, quote, a pretty gentle conversation? Well, of course it's going to be a pretty gentle conversation. The man got a broken face. Like, how harsh of a conversation do you think that Mirotić came? Yeah, you try to have a non-gentle conversation with Mirotić, he's like, Bobby, my head hurts. Could you please stop talking so loud? Please, 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 it hurts. Do you know what Mirotić had to eat last night, Shannon? He had a boost for breakfast, an insure for dessert.
Bobby offered to take him to IHOP.
That's right. And what did he do when they ordered the pancakes? What did he do?
Just sip the scissor.
Just sip the scissor. That's all. Oh, man, I can't imagine. Can you imagine that? Like, I'm trying to do this right now. Can you imagine 8 weeks of this and it hurts? And it hurts. Yeah, you don't want those problems. You don't want those problems. What else we got going in the NBA? Shannon, your man Steph throwing the mouthpiece at the refs and not getting suspended because he's Steph Curry.
Yes, he did not get suspended, but he was fined by the league $50K for throwing his mouthpiece in the general direction of the official, but not at the official.
Now, I will say this, that I do not think necessarily that throwing the mouthpiece at the official is the worst thing in the world, right? Like, I'm not going soft or anything like that. However, Shannon, what would your first response be if somebody threw their slobbery mouthpiece at you and it connected?
Oh, no, I'm going to have to see that dude.
Yep, and that's why he's got to be suspended.
Yeah, Steph, don't let these stripes fool you. Don't let this uniform fool you. Look, this is my second job, all right? This ain't my full-time job. That's my second job.
That's why he's got to be suspended, because pretty much all of y'all, if somebody threw their slobbery mouthpiece and it got on your clothes, you be ready to fight. That's why you can't put an official in a city. I mean this, by the way. This is not even a joke. I feel like the threshold for a lot of these suspensions is if we're not going to allow people to fight, then we can't put people in positions where they should be fighting. And I feel like somebody putting their slobber on you in that way is a fightable offense. That's how I feel about that. We had that one go down. Like, I just feel like we've had a lot to consider. Lonzo Ball, who we'll talk about a little bit later in all of this. But I just feel like the league has so many great storylines right now that if you get yourself caught into the only thing that matters is who wins the championship, you're missing it. Shannon, have you seen the Sixers yet?
Sixers are exciting. I watched them opening night against Washington. That was an exciting game. And looking at Ben Simmons, a 6'10 point guard. 6'10 point guard. He's not just a tall dude playing point. He is a 6'10 point guard.
They have a 6'10 point guard and a 7'2" center who can take you off the dribble from the top of the key. Right? Like that. And we're not even talking about the number one overall pick yet. Also, Shannon, have you noticed? Apparently the Jahlil Okafor experiment is over. Has he gotten off the bench yet this year?
Yeah, he's out of the rotation as we speak. Yeah,
but has he played yet?
I don't remember seeing him. I think he got some action in the preseason.
I don't think he played. I don't think that he has played in the first 2 games. And then if those things weren't interesting enough, apparently the Phoenix Suns are coming completely apart, where Eric Bledsoe, who always seemed to be a fairly easygoing chap, says he didn't want to be there anymore, and then they called him into the office to talk about it, and he told the bosses, no, when I said that, I was at the hair salon. And I feel like that whole situation right there spells out probably why it's not working in Phoenix. You know why it's probably not working in Phoenix? Because Eric Bledsoe right now is probably mad, not because the man told what Eric Bledsoe's story was, because Eric Bledsoe's like, a hair salon? Fool, I told you I was at the barbershop. Shannon, they speak in different languages.
To mention, you're talking about Bledsoe. The Phoenix Suns fired their head coach after 3 games into the season.
After 3 games. Eric Bledsoe said, I don't want to be here anymore. They fired the head coach, and now Eric Bledsoe's not going to be here. I feel like these other cats on the team need to figure out what the program is. We're going to have 5 cats. Devin Booker about to pop up tomorrow. I don't want to be here no more either. Call my agent.
Like, seriously, like, if I'm Tyson Chandler at this point, I'm too old for this. Like, I turned into Murtaugh. I'm too old for this.
I'm at the crib. No, I'm totally at the crib. But when McDonough put out that statement saying that Bledsoe thought he was at the hair salon, you know what my other thought was about that, Shannon? First of all, wasn't it on a Sunday that he sent this?
It was yesterday, right?
Yeah. That's a Sunday, right? Just checking, because you know what Sundays are for? Barbers with no licenses, and I feel like Eric Bledsoe got too much money to get the no license haircut. But to be fair to him, if he was actually in a hair salon, Shannon, perhaps that meant he was in Sport Clips or Great Clips or another one of those places where they don't cut our grade of hair. In which case, I would not blame him for wanting to leave. He may have been halfway through the haircut. You're not buying that one either?
It's looking unlikely.
Yeah, Ryan McDonough's not buying it. Like, your whole thing is falling apart where you are firing the coach after 3 games and you got players being like, I don't want to play here no more. Well, fine then. If you don't want to be here no more, you ain't got to be here. It's going to be a line out the hallway like, excuse me, hey, Ryan, can I talk to you for a second? Yeah, I mean, it's not. I'm just not feeling it. That's it. Also, injury NBA stories, by the way. We still get to see what's going to happen with the Pelicans. We still got what's going on with the Thunder. The Spurs, and I don't know what to make of them. I think they're interesting, though. I'm not going to pretend like I be feeling like watching them. And Shannon, how about the Clippers, who might be better without Chris Paul?
Isn't that something, how they move the ball better and they have different guys bringing up the ball up the court so they can get into different offensive sets now that they have 3 or 4 different guys bringing the ball up? Isn't that something?
Doc about to come in that press conference. I told y'all what I tell y'all. And then, Shannon, we have the Knicks. Have they won a game yet?
We're going to move on to the good teams. What about Jimmy Butler and the Wolves, man?
That's right.
Yes.
Didn't they beat somebody last night, the Thunder?
Yeah, they beat the Thunder. Andrew Wiggins with the game-winning shot.
Yes.
Like, it's intriguing. Let me pose this question. I asked this to Clinton last week, but I'll ask you as well. Who's the second best team right now in the East? Well, if we assume it's Cleveland, the best, who's the second best? Is it Washington? Is it Milwaukee? Is it still Boston despite the injury to Hayward? Who's the second best team in the East?
I lean Milwaukee right now, but I'm a little confused as to why it is that you don't want to talk about the Knicks. You don't want to talk about the Knicks. You don't want to talk about the Giants. Do you have any team that you like that you want to talk about?
And here's something I propose with I need some help out there on Twitter. I proposed this weekend. I need some help. I admitted that I was pretty envious of the Philadelphia 76ers and the whole trust the process slogan because it made it easier. It made all that losing easier to sell. Trust the process. It was catchy. It's something that you can believe in. You can get behind. For us Knicks fans, we need a slogan. We need something. I don't know whether it's believe in unicorns or something. We need something that, despite how bad it is, or we have a first-round pick who twists his ankle or shot 2 air balls in the season's first game, we need something that we can rally behind because it's just not working right now.
You know what y'all need to rally behind, what y'all always rally behind. All y'all need is a 2-game winning streak. Y'all get a 2-game winning streak and y'all will get y'all's full rally on. You act like y'all need like a campaign in order to get Knicks fans hype. All Knicks fans need is the slightest glimmer of hope. That's it. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Oh, and Okafor plays Saturday night against the Raptors. He had 10 points and 9 rebounds. The Sixers lost by 34.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Our guest join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest, Super Bowl champion Ryan Clark. Ryan, what's going on with your Steelers, man? Why is it drama every week?
You know what? I don't even look at this as drama. This is just foolishness. That's basically all this is. And it's not even dealing right now with a player that's contributing a whole lot. So I don't really think this one's a big deal. They're just going to brush this one aside and keep on handing the ball off to 26.
So what do you do with Bryant, though? Because one thing, he's so talented, so I've been surprised that he hasn't gotten the ball more. Like, what do you think the problem's been with him on the field?
You know, if you look at him, he hasn't created the separation we saw him create early on in his career and before he was suspended. He probably also hasn't gotten the attempts going his way. AB has been heavily targeted in the recent weeks. Le'Veon has gotten the ball 30-plus times. So it's only so many footballs to go around. And when you include your tight ends into that and also Juju Smith-Schuster, there's not going to be a lot of chances. He has to capitalize when he gets those chances, which was what he used to do. It wasn't like he was a high-volume catcher. He just made big plays, and some of those big plays down the field haven't materialized for him this year. You go back to yesterday, the first play of the game, they ran a reverse to him. It wasn't a handoff to Le'Veon. It wasn't a pass to AB. So you can see they started the game consciously trying to get him the ball. But sometimes in the flow of the game and the way that the defense is playing and opportunities you have, other people are better options. And I think he has to understand that he's at best the third best option offensively for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, talking to Ryan Clark on the ESPN radio. Now, what did you think about him getting sent home today?
Well, so here's the thing. I haven't really got to talk to anybody there to know exactly what it was, whether he got sent home, whether he called in sick, what the issue was. So I can't really necessarily speak on it from that point. But to me, where there's smoke, there's fire. Any reason that he's not at work, any reason that he's not in a meeting, and you're seeing the IG post that he's deleted, and you're hearing from Jeremy Fowler that people in his camp say that he does want to be traded. All those things lead me to believe that this is going the wrong way, that his decision making isn't in the right place, because you've just set out for a year, you haven't been contributing on the field, and your team is actually playing really well. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're in no rush to get rid of him. I'd put him in street clothes on Sundays and hold out to the end of the season to see if he fixes his attitude and changes the way he thinks and wants to play, or we just use him as insurance in case one of those guys go down.
It also probably doesn't help his case that Juju seems to have replaced a lot of what he brought.
Well, listen, they're two totally different players. They love Juju Smith-Schuster, both as a player and as a person. He's more the Hines Ward guy. He's the guy that's going to dig out safeties in the run game. He's the guy that's going to make the right decisions in the zone of where to sit down and where to go. You saw the pass that he caught yesterday. It was a fake crosser. Then he split the safeties. He's not the guy you're going to put on the outside and say, okay, go beat this guy one-on-one. What's happened is because Martavius hasn't made those plays, or maybe he hasn't had the opportunities because teams understand which way they will try to attack with Martavius, that Juju's made some big catches. Antonio Brown's made some big catches. Le'Veon Bell hasn't had to see 8-man boxes every week. And so when you can do those things, and Martavius is a part of that, he also has to understand in other ways he can help his team win rather than just catching the ball deep.
All right, we're talking to Ryan Clark of ESPN here on The Right Time. Switching gears just a little bit. Is the Patriots defense better than we thought earlier this season, or are the Falcons just bad right now?
The Falcons were bad last night. What the Patriots did last night was they didn't have the communications breakdowns, and you don't know if it's because Stephon Gilmore was hurt or because they were playing with guys that were quote-unquote less talented than Stephon Gilmore was, but Johnson Batamosi, Jonathan Jones, these guys played the defenses that Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick called, and they played them in the correct way. You look at the other side, Matt Ryan had some opportunities to complete some passes. He had some opportunities to push the ball down the field, and whether it was miscommunications or misunderstandings between himself and the wide receivers, those passes weren't completed. He's not completing the ball down the field as he was last year. His completion percentage was over 55% on throws of 15-plus or more last year, and that's come down a ton. And I think that's the difference you see in the offense from last year to this.
All right, Dr. Ryan Clark here on The Right Time. So you as a defensive back, how excited would you have been to play this week where we counted almost 20 quarterbacks that either played sorry or were sorry?
You say play sorry or we're sorry. I mean, that's kind of where the league is right now. And I think that's where the league kind of always has been. There are some top tier guys who can win Super Bowls for you and who can carry teams, and then the rest of the guys are just dudes. And that's what we're seeing. There's not the development of quarterbacks on the lower levels that there used to be. It's not the development of offensive linemen. And when you're Jacoby Brissett, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're going to get sacked 10 times, you can't complete passes downfield. If you're in Cleveland and you don't know if you throw an interception or not, you're going to be on the field. It's hard to compete and be confident in what you're doing. And so it's a league-wide problem. I don't know how you fix it, but if you're a defensive back, you're sure happy they got those problems.
Now, you mentioned the Browns. You as a player, as a former player, what did you think about Hugh Jackson saying that Kaiser shouldn't have been out till 1 o'clock in the morning to the media?
I think it's ridiculous. I think it has absolutely nothing to do with how good you play football. These are grown men. These are adult men. There's no curfew on Friday night. It's not like he missed a meeting because he was out that night. There was nothing that said Kaiser had to be in for a certain time. We are not children. Deshaun Kaiser is not a child. Now, does it hurt you when you stay out till 1 o'clock and you play bad because it's known, and when your coach calls you out? That's bad business. But I think the problem is losing, Bo, because if you win that game and they ask you the question, you laugh it off and you say, you know what, they grown men. As long as he plays well, it's good. But when you lose, it becomes an issue. I've seen a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of guys, period, be out on Friday night and play extremely good football on Sunday. The two things don't necessarily correlate. So I don't like the fact that he used that as a reason for the quarterback's play not being what he thought it should.
All right, last question for Ryan Clark before we go. How good would the Jacksonville Jaguars be if they just had an NFL-level quarterback?
Why are you doing Blake?
Now,
like
granted,
that,
he
man?
played well this week. I'm not going to say he didn't play well this week, but, I mean, it's the craziest thing to watch. Their defense looks so good, except they got him.
You know what? That is the thing. How well will Blake Bortles play week to week? You know by now you can't put the game on his shoulders, so the running game is going to have to be good. You're going to have to play well defensively. And, I mean, this team is good now. This isn't a team that you want to go to Jacksonville and play. But if Blake Bortles can fix some of the turnover problems, become more competent in situational football, this is the team that has the opportunity to win the AFC South and represent this division in the playoffs.
All right, that is Ryan Clark. Check him out covering the NFL for us here at ESPN. My man, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir, man. Have a good one.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
I may get back to this, man. I said Jason Witten isn't a Hall of Famer. I gave a pretty sound statistical case for why Jason Witten is not a Hall of Famer. People got so mad at me for saying that Jason Witten is not a Hall of Famer, and all they ever say is, well, he's a Hall of Famer. He played a long time. We'll get to that in a second. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Hey, man, it's getting a little dicey out here in these streets with these athletes. People saying things to cats on the floor, the dudes, and on the field, and the dudes are not really having very much of it. Jimbo Fisher got himself to a little bit of a situation where somebody was screaming at him from the crowd about how they need to get some new coaches, and Jimbo told him to bring his keister down there and say it to him face to face. He didn't say keister. He used a common synonym for keister. Keister's a funnier word, but the word he used was a bit more emphatic. You understand what I'm saying? By the way, here is Jimbo Fisher saying that there's no reason to be nasty.
No, I have no comment. Not frustration. Just, hey, don't just be support. You know what I'm saying? There's no reason to be nasty. I shouldn't have said something. But at the same time, defending players and people you're with. I'm in charge of them. I love them. Like a father. When they say something to your family, you take up for them.
Yo, Jimbo is also like, Shannon, what are they, 2-4?
Yes, they're struggling. Yeah,
Jimbo's like, I wish this dude would do something that allowed me to fight. Just please come close enough.
Jimbo sounded like a dude who was just about to get in a fight. When he dropped that, know what I'm saying? He was like, just don't be nasty, know what I'm saying? Like, he dropped the know what I'm saying. Like he was willing to throw down, know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you know what? That's Nick Saban, though. They both from West Virginia. Nick Saban hit him with the ites. Right? Isn't that his thing? Aight. That's how he does. Kyrie Irving got himself into a situation. I think Kyrie was tripping, though. Fans said to Kyrie, where's LeBron, as they were walking down the tunnel. And Kyrie, Shannon, I don't even know, is there any way that I can say what Kyrie said, like, even delicately on these airwaves?
He just told the dude to do something.
Yeah. He told him to do something. Like, I'm actually, like, I take great pride in my ability to say things without saying things while I got this mouse over my shoulder. I really do. I have no way of doing that here. None whatsoever. Like, zero. But anyway, here's Kyrie. Asked if he regretted what he said.
Hell no. I'm just man enough to record it on video, then, that's on him. Glad that he got his ad name out there and kind of 5 seconds of fame and it going viral. That's the social media platform we live on. Take full responsibility for what I said. Excuse the kids at home. You move on. We're human. If it's in the heat of the moment and, frustration arises, we were at halftime. We were down by 4. In an environment, season opener in Philly, and with a young team like we have here, just staying composed, handling that before we got in the locker room and then addressing what we had to do in the locker room and then going out and handling the business and getting the W. That's really the only thing that matters to me. It's up to the league at this point, but like I said, I take full responsibility for what I said. I don't have any regrets for it.
Shannon, I feel like I take full responsibility. I don't have any regrets on it. I don't feel like he knows what responsibility or regret mean. One of the two. Is that fair?
Or in some cases, maybe both.
Yeah. Like, I'm a little confused there. Jim McElwain said that his players have been getting death threats at Florida. And then we had the thing in Seattle where, by the way, Shannon, we always hear about Michael Bennett. They got a whole section of dudes over there not standing for the national anthem now. Did you notice that?
It appeared to be most of the defensive line was sitting during the anthem yesterday.
Like, they've all had enough, and they were doing it at the it's not the Meadowlands. It is MetLife. So they were doing it over there at MetLife. The fans were over their shoulder berating them. Cliff Averill, who is not playing because he was hurt, seemed to invite a gentleman to come down and talk to him face-to-face about the situation. And I would love if just once, a fan would be like, yeah, I'm going to come say this dead in your face. Because I feel like everybody needs that. Like, people feel as though the price of a ticket entitles them to say whatever it is that they want to people when they in the crowd. Like, that's just what they feel like. I paid for it. I get to give you a hard time. So I think Kyrie wears LeBron. I think that right there is a fair game. The things those cats are screaming at those dudes during the national anthem, while Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they were honoring the anthem by doing that. Is that how the anthem wants to be honored?
Exactly. I was wondering the same when I read the story, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't feel like they were honoring the anthem in the way the anthem, if the anthem were not an inanimate object, would want to be honored. But just once, I want somebody, when they do, to be like, yo, you can come down here and say it to my face. I want one dude to actually come down there and do it. Just one. Some dude in my Twitter mentions, man, his Twitter name is not something I can pronounce, so I apologize, but I told him I would give him credit for this one. He was like, he wants to see an episode of Pros versus Joes where the Joes fight the pros, and I am totally here for that. Did they ever have a boxing episode of Pros versus Joes, by the way?
I don't believe they had. Somebody would have lost their life if they did.
Think about how great that would be. Pros versus Joes starring Larry Holmes. Like, I'm surprised people at Pros versus Joes didn't think about having Mike Tyson on there. But the problem with Mike Tyson was, like, yeah, Mike Tyson needs the money. Is there anybody out here that's really trying to get out here and fight Mike Tyson? Like, how much money would Shannon right now to fight Mike Tyson tomorrow? How much would they have to pay?
Ooh, I would have to make Mayweather money. It's going to have to be a lot. I'm sorry.
Yes. I'm not fighting Mike Tyson. Will we be able ever to explain to the kids what the phenomenon of Mike Tyson was? Like, is there any way? Because there has not been anyone anywhere near being like Mike Tyson. There have been fighters who have been better than Mike Tyson, but nothing where it's just like, hey, you want to tune in and watch a grown man die? Remember that time Michael Spinks was standing in the ring and he had "I'm about to die" written across his face? Like, it wasn't actually written across his face, but he wrote it across his face with all that fear. And none of us were clowning Michael Spinks for that. We'd have all been afraid, too. Like, that was the culmination of it. But fans got to get to a place, man. This idea that you just get to talk to cats any way that you want to, one of y'all going to wind up getting too close. You ever seen that clip of that hockey game that one time? That dude was talking that noise. I think it was to the Buffalo Sabres bench. And the next thing you know, he fell down onto the bench. And they passed him up and down like a party favor. Do you see that? I feel like every now and then people need to learn that, because I'll be the one to tell you, man, I personally I'm not an absolutist about violence. I prefer the world not be violent. At the same time, I do have a recognition. Sometimes people got to put their hands on you. This is just what it is. We have all been in these situations where at some point it just got to where the only resolution for this matter is to put hands on people, and the understanding that some things mean you're going to get hands put on you. Right? Like, that's just how this works. I really feel like once people get into a situation where the threat of violence is absent, that's when we have problems. And that's what we have with fans, is that fans feel like because they're in the crowd and there's railings and there's security and stuff like that nobody's going to say anything to them, so they can say whatever it is that they want. But if you ever see a situation where it looks like that fan might come at them, everything changes. Shannon, you remember the Malice at the Palace? That dude who threw that cup of beer at Artest, and then when Artest got up there and was right next to him, he shoved him off onto the dweeb. You remember that?
Like, in Dude's defense, I would have did the same thing, too, though.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have thrown no beer at Ron Artest either, would you?
Of course not, no.
And that's the thing. No, but he pushed him on the dweeb. To this day, I just can't imagine what was going through that dweeb's mind. He was in that Cliff Huxtable sweater, and he's just minding his own business. The best basketball tickets he ever had in his life. And the next thing you know, Ron Artest is coming at him. And, by the way, Ron Artest is coming at him and didn't really want to fight. He just wanted to talk. Yeah. But fans got to get that in check, and I think the leagues are going to need to pay attention to this, especially, look, with the guys with the Seahawks, this is what I think the league has to keep in mind. As long as the league does not have a rule saying you have to stand for the anthem, and even if the league had a rule saying that you did have to stand for the anthem, they got to look out for those dudes on the bench, because if people are going to scream at them and abuse them in the way that it seemed to be happening at that game in New York, then it is a matter of time before somebody comes to give the hands to those dudes. And no matter what, you as the NFL, you could sit around and just wait to suspend somebody, or you're probably going to need to be a bit proactive. Terrell Pryor said that game where he said the people were screaming racial slurs at him on the sideline that the NFL had to put some security next to him. They're going to wind up having to do that because this has been the year in the NFL where it has been exposed to us just how much the fans hate the players. Not every single one of you, but a whole lot. And that's clearer than ever. And as these cats start saying more and more, and as we start dealing with everything that's going on in the world, it's a matter of time before you wind up with a big problem because everybody's on edge. Fans on edge, dudes on the field are on edge. And you mess around and take it too far, you're going to be on your back.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. Check him out at EDSBS.com. Also, SBNation.com. He is the best college football writer in America. His name is Spencer Hall. All right, Spencer, so the beats that Notre Dame put on USC, are we saying that's more about Notre Dame being really good or USC not being what we thought?
I like to think of it as a couple of individual strengths and weaknesses, which combined can flatter and definitely not flatter either partner. For instance, USC, turnover prone, inconsistent, makes mistakes, tends to go and then stop for a while and then be really inconsistent and then all of a sudden produce at the end of a game. It's not going to cut it when you're going against something as steady as Notre Dame, because in case you don't know, Notre Dame, they run the daylights out of the ball this year. And when you can do that, you can keep people on the field you can keep defense on the field for a long time. Those runs start to get a little bit longer. Also, they got multiple options. You got Adams and Wimbush at the backfield. You can pretty much zoom in if you can stop the run at USC and make Sam Darnold, make things happen. And sometimes those things that he makes happen, they've been interceptions a lot. There's a lot of people saying this reminds them of Jameis Winston's last year, where it felt like he was pressing and doing too much. And I don't think that's inaccurate. So I think that says a lot about how consistent Notre Dame's been. And I think when a team's that consistent, you go against an inconsistent USC team, as talented as they are, you're going to get a beatdown.
Now, the thing, though, about that Darnold-Winston comparison is we said that Winston was just pressing, although I think we figured out that's just who he is.
Yeah, no, and I think that's who Darnold is. I think that when you draft a quarterback, right, if you're thinking in terms of drafting a college quarterback, I think in terms of what they are, you don't get a product that's going to vary much. And what Sam Darnold is one of those guys that you just got to chalk turnovers into the equation and hope that the good balances out the bad, right? And by the way, that'll get you in the Hall of Fame if it's the right kind of good-bad mixture, right? Because Brett Favre was somebody who's not a risk-averse quarterback. Big spikes, big valleys, though, too.
Also, by the way, Clay Helton and Sam Darnold is the most boring head coach quarterback combination of all time.
Yeah, no, it's not good. Like if you're looking for bright quotes, if you're looking for electricity, if you're looking for a little bit of a buddy cop show there, cancel it because they're not going to hold an audience.
We're talking to Spencer Hall of EDSBS.com here on The Right Time. Switching gears just a little bit. Syracuse almost got there with Miami, right? Like they kept it closer than I thought that they would. But how good do you think Miami is?
I think Miami is pretty good. I just think they've been very consistent and they've been very lucky. And when you're consistent and you're pretty good, you can beat teams that are maybe better than you just by not making a whole lot of mistakes, or i.e. making fewer mistakes. Syracuse had, I believe, 4 turnovers in that game. Syracuse is a really fun team to watch, by the way. Had every opportunity to win that game if they just don't consistently hand Miami the ball over and over and over. And really, when we go back, you go, well, what's the sort of emotional high point of Miami's season thus far? It's beating Florida State. Well, that's cool. You know who else has beat Florida State? 4 other teams, because we're getting to the end of October, and they have 2 wins. Dose wins. It's not good, and it's not a particularly strong resume point when you look at Miami, but that's going to bear out because their schedule down the way, it's a little mean. They play some of those games at home, but they got to beat Virginia Tech. And we were talking about them earlier. They got to beat Notre Dame. Have fun trying to get them off the field.
Now, speaking of Florida State, if you were the athletic director at Florida State, where would you be with Jimbo Fisher? Because I don't think you talk about firing Jimbo Fisher this year, but I don't know what they have anymore.
Yeah, I don't think you do either. I just think you kind of have to have a look at where they are as a program. And by the way, we talk about the 10-year rule, which that's a little arbitrary. It's just kind of a general thing where you go, okay, if a coach has been somewhere 10 years, is everybody sick of them? Is it time for them to either reboot, reconsider what they're doing, restaff, get new assistants on, or maybe it's time for them to move on? Now, I don't think it's that time with Jimbo Fisher, but Jimbo Fisher's never really fired a coach, for instance. He's been very loyal to guys, and that can go stale after a while, and it'll start to show up. And he might want to consider sort of renovating that staff because they might be due for a facelift. Because if you look in state at the recruiting, which again is always the war in Florida, that competition got stiffer than ever this year. Like when FAU has Lane Kiffin recruiting, FAU and FIU, right, with real guys recruiting players.
USF?
It's a USF and UCF with Scott Frost there. It's just a meaner environment than it's ever been. And, you know, over time, eventually you kind of have to change things. I will say this. There is a tendency for people who have a lot of success at schools like that sort of get their way for a real long time. And after a while, that can kind of get to be an echo chamber. And I think that might be a little bit what you're dealing with. You know, they're victims of their own success in Tallahassee.
How nice do you think Jimbo is with those hands? Because he was ready to fight that fan, or at least talked about it that way. And then I thought, ooh, West Virginia.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot. He's from West Virginia, and I just feel like we were trying to match up whether you had a coach and a fan base who I'm pretty sure both of them were serious about, you know, taking their shoes off and getting down. And I think that, like, if at Florida State, I'm pretty sure Jimbo's about it. I don't know if the guy in the stands is, but I'm going to lean yes, right? Like at Florida, no, you got too many, like, soon-to-be law students there who are already thinking about the liability and the damages they'll have to pay, right? Because like, half the people I went to school with at Florida ended up being lawyers, so they were already thinking about that, right? So that's not going to happen. And then I think if you're looking at other schools, you know, like Texas, that's not happening at Texas. Everybody's just too chill at Texas, right?
Yeah, he's driving us there, though, boy. Let me tell you, he's getting us close. I do think there were some people that were mad enough to fight Charlie Strong at Texas, except nobody was dumb enough to fight Charlie Strong.
No. Charlie Strong buttoned his shirt all the way up to the top, right? You know why? Just keep all that power in. He's an extremely intimidating-looking dude. I would not try it. Like, if I had to fight a coach, I'm going to make it easy. I'm going with Bill Snyder every single time. You know why? He's old. It's not fair. And that means I might win. That's the only way I'm getting out of there alive, because everyone else is taking a piece out of me.
3 words on Charlie Strong, mayor of Gainesville. We are talking to Spencer Hall of SBNation.com here on The Right Time. Where are you on the Penn State wagon?
I'm pretty positive about them. I think they do a really good job of making your weak points on defense very obvious very quickly. Joe Moorhead's super aggressive, and he's got 2 offensive pieces that can make you look real bad real fast. He's one of those guys who likes to do jerk routes, right? Wheel route. He'll get a wheel route. Saquon Barkley. You know what happens on a wheel route? You get a real fast guy on a guy who's not as fast as the real fast guy, and everyone looks like a jerk. They're really fun, really creative. They even had Trace McSorley running like the inverted veer, where the quarterback keeps and runs up the middle, and toward the end of the game, he was juking people on a Don Brown defense, which, frankly, I don't know if any of us were existentially prepared for, but it happened, all right? And that's what good offenses do. They make you uncomfortable, and they make you see things you didn't think you were going to see, like Trace McSorley, Heisman Trophy running back for a night.
Yeah, I did not think it was possible to get Penn State this good in the 21st century. Was I crazy for that? Because, I mean, even, like, the declining significance of, like, the program and where it had been over the years, and then, you know, that thing that happened, and now all of a sudden, this is as good a team as they've had since 1994.
Absolutely. And I think, by the way, defensively, they're only going to get better. I still think they can round into form, right? Offensively, I think that we're going to see some slight improvement, but I think the defense has a ways to go and can actually get better and better, especially as that defensive line kind of continues to mature. I think it was probably a little premature to write them off, because if you look at where they are, you kind of think of them as sort of being tucked into, like, you know, the super country part of Pennsylvania. They're close to a lot of stuff. They're super dedicated to the program. They'll spend as much money as they need, right? They went and got James Franklin. They paid for somebody who is going to bring them into the 21st century in terms of recruiting. And that's what you want to look for, right? You don't want to write off a program if they're committed. They might make some mistakes, but over time, eventually, they're going to get it right by hiring the right person and continuing that recruiting. So I think that was probably pretty premature, and I'm guilty of that as well. I sort of thought they had slid into, like, not quite Nebraska territory, but, like, I didn't think far off from that, and I was obviously deeply wrong.
Yep, and LSU people think they might be able to get James Franklin, and I have all the jokes about why Dave Aranda and James Franklin can't both be on that same staff unless they're going to wear name tags. Spencer Hall, SBNation.com, joins us every week here to talk college football. Thanks so much, sir. I appreciate it.
No, my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.